Hello, and welcome to the People's Clerk, the show where you, the citizens of Fulton County, can learn more about the different services available through the Superior Court Clerk's office and how those services relate to everyday issues that impact the life, the liberty, and the property of the people we serve. I'm Kathleen Tina Robinson, your Clerk of Fulton County Superior Court. As Clerk of Superior Court, my office serves internal and external constituents through a wide range of mandated duties. One of those duties is the governing of oaths. From the deputy clerks and Board of Equalization members who serve in my office, to the Board of Elections and citizens applying for notaries and passports, the role of clerk, as it relates to administering oaths, is a very extensive and important one. In addition to the oaths already mentioned, there is one particular type of swearing in that takes place in our office quite often: the swearing in of new applicants to the State Bar of Georgia. Each year, our office works closely with the Supreme Court of Georgia's Office of Bar Admission and the State Bar of Georgia to ensure that several hundred applicants successfully become members of the Georgia Bar. There are several steps that must be taken before one can legally begin the practice of law in the state of Georgia. On today's show, we will hear from a representative of the Office of Bar Admissions and a representative of the State Bar of Georgia to discuss the process of becoming an attorney and the intricate role the clerk's office plays in that process. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the People's Clerk. Today we are discussing details surrounding the process of becoming an attorney in Fulton County and the state of Georgia. Joining me today is Mrs. Sally Lockwood, Director of Admissions for the Georgia Supreme Court of Georgia's Office of Bar Admissions, and Ms. Brinda Lovvorn, the State Bar of Georgia's Director of Membership. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
If you would please introduce yourselves and tell us your role in the organization where you're from.
Thank you, Clerk Robinson. I'm Sally Evans Lockwood, and I'm Director of the Office of Bar Admissions of the Supreme Court of Georgia. Under the Georgia Constitution, the Supreme Court is responsible for the regulation of the practice of law, including admission to the practice. And it has delegated to two separate boards the responsibilities of determining if one is both ethical and fit by character, as well as competent to practice law. The board to determine fitness of bar applicants determines the character and fitness of applicants, and the Board of Bar Examiners determines the competence through the bar exam. Both boards in the Office of Bar Admissions and the Supreme Court of Georgia have the responsibility of protecting the public from unethical and incompetent lawyers.
Ms. Lovvorn, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. I am Brinda Lovvorn, the Director of Membership for the State Bar of Georgia, and I thought I would give just a brief history of the bar because most people, even attorneys, don't understand it. Okay. The bar in Georgia was formed in 1983 as a small group of voluntary members, and they found a voluntary bar did not give them the ability to impact the laws they wanted to impact or the service to the public. So it took a number of years, but in 1963, legislation was put in place to make it a mandatory bar in Georgia. And from that, we've been able to make a foundation to improve the administration of justice in the state. And that's kind of where I come in. When Sally's members are approved, they then are transferred to us for administration, I would say, of their membership. So we deal with your office
Yes.
on a daily basis on the oaths and the membership, getting them enrolled and getting them started in their practice.
Okay, great, great. And once the applicant graduates and, because they put a lot of time in law school, so what should they expect when preparing to take the bar exam?
Well, in the typical case, if someone is a law student, in the third year, usually about 7 months before they wish to sit for a bar exam, the applicant would apply to our office. We call that the application for certification of fitness to practice law. Admission in Georgia is a two-step process. One first must seek and obtain certification of fitness, and only then, after certification of fitness has been issued, is one eligible to apply for and sit for the bar exam. So the first step is to go through the fitness investigation process through this very long and extensive application, which is now online. And it asks a lot of detailed information about your residential history, your education history, your work history, your criminal history, if any, your financial history, any other professional licenses you may have, your mental health, your driving record. And after all of that is investigated, the file is presented to the fitness board,
Okay.
and certification is issued if all is in order. And 80% of our applicants, we receive about 2,000 applications a year, 80% of our applicants sail through the process with no problems. But the 20% may reveal problems in those areas that I mentioned that are covered on the application.
And if that comes about, is there anything they can do to correct that, or will it, they just can't apply, or can they fix it and apply later?
Well, they've already applied,
Okay.
so they may be delayed in the process. For instance, if they reveal on the application that they have a credit history that reveals problems, such as accounts that have been put out to collection or charged off accounts, then the board requires that they be able to show 6 months of on-time payments as agreed to by the creditor, because after all, lawyers are in charge of client funds.
Right.
And so they have to show financial responsibility. So they can be delayed in the process. Now, there are some for whom the problems revealed are so severe that the board determines they do not possess the current character and fitness to be admitted. And in that case, they would be denied, and they'd have to wait 3 years to apply again. But it's important to point out that the board standard is current character and fitness, not what it was 5 years ago. And it's also important that the board adheres to the doctrine of rehabilitation. There is no absolute barrier to admission. There is no conduct that is so egregious that it would bar you from admission if you're able to show that you have been fully rehabilitated from that conduct.
Okay, well, that's good information and good to know. What's the difference in someone taking the bar exam and someone being admitted on motion?
Well, we have examinations to determine if one is competent to practice law. However, if someone has practiced law in another reciprocal jurisdiction, that means another jurisdiction that would allow our lawyers from Georgia to be admitted without examination, and we have reciprocity with 37 other jurisdictions, then if they've practiced law 5 of the past 7 years, the practice of those years makes up for taking the examination, because that's an assurance of competence. But there are other eligibility requirements that must be met. Of course, they have to go through the fitness investigation process. They have to be in good standing in the reciprocal jurisdiction, and they have to meet the educational requirement of attendance and graduation from an American Bar Association approved law school.
And are there a lot of people that come into the bar by that method?
We admit about 200 a year on motion. Atlanta is a big draw in the legal market because of the major law firms and national law firms that have offices here, as well as the southeastern headquarters of a lot of federal agencies, as well as state government.
Okay. What about a person who's gone to law school but they're undecided about practicing? What advice would you give them?
Well, before someone goes to law school, my advice is to look at the data. There's been a flood of information in the media recently about the high cost of legal education, the declining job market, the high debt incurred, as well as the emphasis on theoretical training as opposed to clinical and practical training in law school. The American Bar Association, which is in charge of accrediting law schools for the United States Department of Education, now requires that law schools display employment and salary data. It used to be that law firms would hire new graduates to do document review, but now a lot of that is outsourced. A lot of it is done by contract lawyers on an as-needed basis, and software can do a lot of it. So the market has declined. But my advice is to do your research. Look at the law school's employment figures, look at the law school's bar passage rate, determine how much debt you would incur. But there are many legal needs that are unmet for middle-income and low-income Americans, and we need good lawyers. So if you think it's a path to wealth, think again. But if you've done your research and you have a passion for the law, if you want to solve people's problems, because lawyers at their best are really problem solvers, they use the law to solve problems, then I would say go for it.
That's very good advice, and because no matter what the occupation, it's really important that you have a passion for it.
I agree.
But I would like to also say that each of the jobs that you do really help us out too in the clerk's office, and we want to thank you for all that you do in the process of us giving the oaths and helping people in this process of becoming attorneys in Georgia. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return from break, we will continue our discussion with Mrs. Lockwood and Mrs. Lovvorn about the process of becoming an attorney in Georgia. They will also provide more valuable information for the future Georgia bar applicants. You're watching The People's Clerk. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. Before we went to break, we were discussing the process of becoming a member of the Georgia Bar. Once you go through the process where they're approved, they've had the fitness, they've done all of that, and they are sworn in our office. We have a couple of mass swearing-ins, as well as judges do private swearing-ins in their office, in their chambers, every day. So once that is done, are they then free to practice at that point?
Yes. What happens at that point is they come to us and they can practice after we get their enrollment package. And their package includes a lot of the information Sally got from them again, as well as your oath. They also have to participate in continuing legal education and a program that we call Transition into Law Practice Management. Those are all a part of a package that's given to the membership department. We at that time assign them a bar number, and at the moment they get the bar number, they are able to practice law.
Wow. And while we're on that topic of practicing law, many times people will come in our office and they have not had a great experience with an attorney. They want to know where they can file a complaint if they have a complaint against an attorney. So can you tell us a little about that process?
Sure. We have a department that's dedicated just to that. It's led by an attorney, so we care very much about the legal part of these complaints and having someone that understands both the attorney side and the consumer side. The department is called the Consumer Assistance Program, and they can be reached at 404-527-8759, or you can always call the main number of the bar, which is 404-527-8700, and ask for consumer assistance.
Approximately how many members are with the Georgia Bar currently?
We're right now between 44,000 and 45,000 attorneys, and that was a surprise to me when I started dealing with it. About 36,000 of those are what we call active attorneys and can practice. The rest of them are inactive and are not able to practice in that status, but can easily pay additional dues and begin to practice.
Please explain to us what may cause an attorney to become disbarred.
There's a number of things. What we see most often, it made me think of fitness when Sally was talking about it, is a misuse or theft of client funds is one of the big things that you'll see. Abandonment of a practice. Typically, when you get into the details of both of those issues, there's at times underlying issues like drug abuse or alcohol abuse that the attorney is dealing with. Right now, we've got 657 attorneys that have been disbarred. And that sounds like a large number, but that's been since 1963.
Okay.
We currently have 80 that are in some form of suspension that usually if they're just suspended, they clear it up over a period of time. So in conjunction to the overall picture of 45,000, there's very few that have really bad problems.
And is it a real long process, or on an average, how long does that process take if a consumer has an issue before it's resolved through the bar?
I'm probably not the best one to address that. Consumer assistance is involved in that, and then our attorneys, which they're called the Office of General Counsel, they handle the process. It does at times take a very long time to get to the details and handle it correctly, but it's hard for me to give you an average.
Okay. As relates to your processes in both your offices, what role does the clerk's office plays in those responsibilities?
A very important and integral part in terms of admission to practice, because as you've mentioned, once one receives certification of fitness and takes and passes the bar exam, the applicant is given a certificate of eligibility for admission to the practice of law, which the applicant takes to the Superior Court where they want to be sworn in. And your office in Fulton County, of course, receives the bulk of those. And we have a wonderful working relationship with you and your staff. And it is a pleasure to work with you.
Tell us a little about the bar exam. What should the candidates expect?
Well, the bar exam gets a bad rap. People think it's this dreaded 2-day affair. I've been there. I know what it's like. But it really, if you've been to a good law school and if you have studied and prepared for the bar exam, it should not cause undue anxiety. Of course, it's a high-stakes exam. But a member of my staff or I goes to each law school in Georgia in the spring of the 3rd year and speaks to the students with a bar examiner about how to pass the Georgia bar exam. The bar examiner actually goes over the question he or she wrote for the last exam and asks the students to follow the line of thought and see what is expected. Most applicants do take some sort of bar review course, or they are very structured and disciplined about studying because there are 14 topics that are covered on the exam, and you can't study for it the night before. The exam itself is given twice a year in February and July. We test about 600 in February and about 1,300 or 1,400 in July. It's given at the Georgia International Convention Center. Accommodations for those with Americans with Disabilities Act, accommodations are available. And the exam is a 2-day affair, as I said. 1 day is given over to essays written by the Georgia bar examiners. And there's a performance component where they're asked to perform a task that any first-year associate would be expected to do, such as write a memo or a letter to a client. The second day is all multiple choice. It takes about 3 months to grade, a lot of exams, and the results are released in October for for July, and May for February.
Great. Well, we have sort of a fairly new process with our office and your office. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Ms. Lovvorn?
Yes, I'd love to. In fact, what Sally just mentioned somewhat kicks off the process. I get a large list from Sally in the end of May and another large list the end of October of people that have passed. Sally's office sends a notification letter, and at the same time I send a notification letter that says, congratulations, you're now eligible to enroll, and we tell them to go to the website. As part of that, it tells them that they need to get sworn in, which Sally has also told them, and that the clerk in all counties except for Fulton will provide them with a paper copy. In Fulton, we've tried a really innovative approach to get rid of paper and to streamline the process, where you send me all of the oaths electronically, and it has been a great, great time saver. It's even enabled me to have an extra benefit I didn't expect, and that some people either don't understand that they need to enroll after they're sworn in, or they forget. So I'm able to then send follow-up letters to ensure that they know that they need to enroll. They need to enroll 60 days from the date they were sworn in, and that's important for them to know.
Oh, great. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the show, but if you would please give us your final thoughts. And again, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I would encourage anyone who is thinking of being admitted to the practice of law in Georgia to visit our website at gabaradmissions.org or call us at 404-656-3490, and we will be happy to speak with you.
Great. Ms. Lovvorn?
I'd also like to thank you so much. The benefit that I really see from this is that a number of attorneys, even after going through the process we've talked about today, which is lengthy, don't understand the difference in bar admissions in the State Bar of Georgia. So I think this program will clarify a lot of their misunderstandings, and they'll know which entity to go to for which issues. So I thank you for that.
And thank you both. We're going to take a brief intermission and allow you time to get your pens and pads handy. When we return, I will share our office contact information and my final thoughts. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We'd like to thank our guests, Sally Lockwood and Brinda Lovvorn, for joining us today and providing valuable information about the process of becoming a member of the State Bar of Georgia. For some, making the decision to become an attorney is one that is reached naturally. With parents, grandparents, and other family members serving as lawyers, it seems as though the practice of law may have a link that is sometimes inherited. While for others, becoming an attorney is a decision that is reached with much deliberation. Regardless of the reason one chooses to become an attorney, he or she must fully understand the greater level of commitment and vow to uphold the legal and moral responsibility that accompanies this profession. In an excerpt from the Fulton County Attorney's Oath, applicants promise to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Georgia. It's important to know that in essence, lawyers are the fabric of our society, often occupying roles in government and businesses that greatly impact communities, states, and the country at large. I believe it's safe to say that a lawyer's ethical fortitude, as it relates to providing guidance and ensuring that justice prevails at all times, is the utmost responsibility of an attorney. Currently, the State Bar of Georgia has nearly 45,000 members that serve in a variety of capacities throughout the state. We understand the importance of attorneys to the effectiveness of the legal justice system, and we encourage them to continue to work with our office and other agencies to make our community a safer place for all to live, work, and play. Should you need to contact our office regarding taking your attorney's oath or to utilize any of our services, we are located at 136 Prior Street Atlanta, Georgia 30303. We also have 3 Fulton County Service Centers to assist you. We can be reached at 404-613-5313, or please visit our website at www.fultonclerk.org. We take pride in assisting every Fulton County resident in every way that we can, because we believe in doing the right thing, the right way, each time for every customer. I'm Kathleen Tina Robinson, and I am the People's Clerk. See you next time.